everybody for joining. We're at 1 o'clock now, and I want to welcome and say how excited we are to have Laura Troy here to talk with us about the ever popular topic of social media. Laura leads the social media strategy for the Ritz-Carlton, St. Regis, and JW Marriott hotels. And today, Laura will teach us about tips on how to use paid social media through compelling advertising campaigns. And I'll turn it over to Laura to introduce herself, and I'll pull up the presentation here in a minute.
Great. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. As she mentioned, I've been with Marriott International for 13 years, most recently focusing on the luxury brands, and then now recently transitioning to a new role where I oversee social media for United States and Canada across all brands, and primarily focusing on paid social. So I think that's a really great topic for us to discuss today. There's a lot to uncover and unpack. I know paid social can be very overwhelming, specifically of the platforms, the options, the placements. So today we're really going to focus in on Facebook and Instagram and walk through some of the best practices, some tips, some things to keep in mind as you're creating your campaigns. If there is a desire after this to dive deeper into any particular topic or think about Pinterest or Twitter advertising, we can definitely do that as well. So each one of these topics actually I could speak for hours and hours on. So I'm trying to keep the presentation to 40 minutes so we can have an open dialogue and some discussions and also share some best practices on what's working for you. I am going to turn off my camera just because I think my Wi-Fi has been a little bit spotty, but excited to walk you through this. So thank you, Caitlin. Okay, great. We can move on to the second slide. And then with paid social, just like any social strategy, it's really important to remember that it is constantly evolving. When I started the year, there was a lot of options on Facebook, and then now there's even more. So I know that it can be overwhelming, and I know that there's a lot of options. At the end of the day, really think about what it is your business goals are and how you can align paid social to that. It is constantly evolving. If you ever attend any webinars from Facebook or Instagram, they do always say, test and learn, try new things, just because the channels are evolving, the people are evolving. And then also too, consumption on social has increased a lot because of the pandemic. So just something to keep in mind. If something didn't work once or twice, don't be discouraged and try something new. And then moving on. And it's really great to think about a 360 approach. For those of you that attended a webinar I did earlier in the fall, I really spoke about making sure that you're connected and have a 360 approach. So the best social strategies also align with your business goals. You want to make sure that whatever it is that you're talking about in social really does ladder back up to what you want to achieve business-wise. So working with, if you are a larger company, working with your PR team or your sales team or your internal communications team to really be aligned and all working together to share that common message and theme. You'll probably notice I'll say a few times here today about storytelling and really being compelling with the type of content that you're sharing. Facebook continually shares that as a best practice. And I think it's really important for you, whatever your narrative is, to make sure that it's aligned and it's very much a 360 approach. So all the different disciplines and departments that make up your company are really working together to tell that story. And then moving on to the next slide. We're going to look at this social space, primarily Facebook and Instagram. Great, so Facebook. So why would you want to advertise on Facebook? I know that probably seems like a silly question, but I kind of wanted to ground everyone on where Facebook is today. So they have over 500 million users on their story platforms daily. I know when you think of stories, you probably think of Instagram stories, but Facebook looks at Facebook stories and Insta stories. So that's pretty powerful. there's 2.7 billion people that use Facebook every month and growing. That's a huge amount of people that you can connect with. And your audience is on Facebook. I think that is really the great thing, is it connects a lot of different people, and people use Facebook for a variety of different ways. But I think it's really important to know that there's a huge amount of people that you could reach very easily. And Facebook has set up their ad capabilities and have evolved them to make them a little bit simple, more of a beginner type of feel, and then also more advanced. Because depending on what your goal is, there are certain types of placements or certain types of ads that you can do that can really help move your business. If you think about it, how many people watch the Super Bowl and that's just one night, and advertisers are all wanting to show their funniest and best commercial? I mean, they have 2.7 people every day logging into Facebook and interacting with friends, with family, with businesses. So this is definitely an opportunity that you want to consider if you haven't already. As I mentioned, there are beginner and advanced advertising solutions. So you can do a lot on your own page. And then you can also do more advanced campaigns depending on what it is that you're trying to solve for. And then what I think is really great about Facebook is the ads are scalable across the Facebook portfolio. So when you're advertising with Facebook, they also, depending on the campaign and how much you're spending and what your goals are, you can also look at potentially doing that same ad on Instagram or within their audience network or verified partners. So it's more than just the news feed. For those of you that have been advertising on Facebook for some time, a couple of years ago, it was pretty limited on what you could do. And now there's a lot of different options and different placements and different ways to connect with people. So some of the things, and this is probably what a lot of you are doing today, is really using the advertising opportunities that are from your page. So boosting your posts that to not only reach your engaged audience, but also a target audience that might be interested in your type of content. Just promoting your page. A couple of years ago, it was really popular to have a lot of followers and to get a lot of momentum. Follower count doesn't really mean as much as it did in the past, but if you do want to promote your page, there's ads for you to do that. Same with your website. If you want to make sure that you're driving people to your website, there's advertising for that. And then a call to action. And I think we'll discuss call to actions later, but it is really important to, where appropriate and depending on what your goals are, to include a call to action so the audience knows what it is that you want them to do. Do you want them to visit your website? Do you want to make a conversion? Do you want them to submit their email so they can be on an email campaign? There's a lot of different call to actions that they have, but all of these things are relatively easy to do just from your page. You don't need the ads manager unit. You can do these all from your page. And then moving on to the next slide. Instagram. So same question. Why would you want to advertise on Instagram? Well, Instagram has 1 billion users and it's growing. As of earlier this year, Facebook was still the #1 choice for advertisers to advertise on, but Instagram is actually closing the gap, because with the Facebook network, you can advertise on both or one or the other, depending on what your goals are and the type of content you have. So Instagram is definitely creeping up there and becoming a lot more popular to advertisers. Some stats about Instagram is 70% of these users are under the age of 35. So again, if you're trying to target more of a millennial or a younger crowd, Instagram is great. Versus Facebook, they're growing in the baby boomers. So people that are 60 and over are really growing on Facebook, and they're spending a lot more time consuming content on Facebook. So it's also good to think about your target audience. Where do they live? What do you want them to know about your product? How old are they? Will really determine which platform you want to advertise on. And 60% of users say they discover new products on Instagram. So people are using it to not only be connected to the passions that they love, but they're also using Instagram to find new products. I personally have probably bought 3 things from Instagram this week that I don't think I would have searched out on my own, but it was a compelling ad. I thought, okay, I'll give it a try, because I'm similar. I want to discover new things and new products. So this is a really great opportunity. If you have something that's compelling and you want to share, Instagram could be something you want to consider. What I think is really impressive is that 200 million Instagrammers visit a business profile daily. That's pretty big, right? Because when you think about when social first started, it was all about connecting with your family and your friends. Now, a lot of people are not only searching for family and friends, but they're also looking at business profiles and seeing the different types of products that are out there. So I think that is really great indicator that people want to shop on Instagram. And then same as that, 90% of followers of accounts follow a business on the platform. So I think that's really important to note. I think with Instagram, we really want to make sure that we're connecting passions. So a lot of people are on Instagram to further a passion, to be connected with other people that have similar passions. So when you think about your content and how to advertise, think about passions and if that makes sense for you and if you can pull it through in your content. Content here needs to be very immersive visually. As you can see from some of the examples here, that it's really pulling you in to the product or the place or the destination. So depending on what it is that you can offer, you really want to try to be as immersive as you possibly can. And then also think about discovery. As I mentioned, people are really using Instagram for discovery, for finding new products, for finding new services, for finding things that they didn't know they needed. And same with exploration. They want to explore new places. They want to explore new products. It's really all about discovery. I think it's really important when we're thinking about content and we're thinking about advertising that these channels really want to move towards a more commerce place. So more of an Amazon where you can pick and choose and see different experiences and see different types of products. And I think that's really important. And you've probably noticed with some of their capabilities and their advertising these days that they really do want to move toward commerce. So I think that's just something to consider as they move forward. But really want to make sure that, again, if you have something that's visually interesting, people want to discover new things. They want to see ads on Instagram. So I think that's a great opportunity for all of us. And then moving on to the next slide.
We do have a question here about
sure.
The 90% of accounts following a business platform. Does that figure include influencers?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I can ask my Instagram rep to let you know one way or the other. I think it's an actual business. I think a lot of people, while you would argue that influencers are a business, they're more of a person. But they could include that because now for an influencer, they can have business accounts. So I will double check on that. Great question.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the next slide.
Great. Perfect. And then Instagram stories. So I called this one out because the type of creative that can go on Instagram stories looks and feels different. So there are 500 million users on IG stories every day, which I think is huge. 80% of Instagram users post a story, so people are actively posting and engaging on this platform. 51% of brands are using video and Instagram stories. So video, and this will be something I call out at the end of trends to watch, video consumption is already incredibly high. Video ad units tend to perform incredibly well. I think this number is going to go up and up and up. 17.8 Instagrammers watch IGTV, which is their long form video content platform. And then a third of most viewed IG stories are from businesses. So I think that's really positive as well. With Instagram stories, and I would say the same also applies for Facebook stories, is that it was meant to have a full screen experience to drive an action. It was meant to take up the whole of your mobile. So this is mobile, right? This isn't desktop. This is meant to take up as much room on your phone as possible. So you want to utilize that space appropriately, but it's used to drive to drive an action. So when you swipe up, are you driving them to learn more about your business or a service that you're offering? So really thinking about when you're creating Insta stories and creating ad units for Instagram stories, the purpose is to drive an action. So want to make sure that that's very clear in the creative. You want to showcase your brand, product, and service at the very beginning. Again, this is quick, it's 15 seconds. So whatever service you might be offering, make sure that it's clear upfront. You also want to use, where applicable, and this is more for video units, use fast cuts and multiple chapters to keep people engaged. You don't have to use the full 15 seconds just to share the same thing. You can use quick transitions to, if you're, say I work for Clorox and I could have 5 seconds on my wipes, another 5 seconds on the sprays, another 10 seconds maybe on detergent if that's what they sell, but they could use that 15 seconds to feature a lot of products and services versus just focusing on one. I think another thing, and this is really interesting, don't forget about the sound. So I'm not sure if I mentioned on the last webinar, but sound on social previously, pre-pandemic, a lot of people didn't really use sound because if you're watching social in a meeting and the sound comes on, people didn't really like that. So sound sometimes felt intrusive and people turned it off. But now, post-pandemic, with a lot of people working from home, sound has become a whole lot more popular and people are watching Insta stories or videos with the sound on because they don't have to worry about that interruption. So that's just something to consider if you do want to have sound in your video. Sound could be really powerful and actually enhance your ad product. And then just a reminder, you want to have your brand message or service at the beginning and also at the end. So again, like 2 reminders of what it is that they're seeing and watching. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you want to play around. Don't get discouraged if the first one didn't work out or get the results that you wanted. There's a lot of different formats and a lot of great ways to tell stories using Instagram stories. So play around, don't get discouraged, try new things. You can try sound on, sound off if you want to try different cuts and things like that. But definitely feel free to get creative and just test and learn to see what resonates with the audience you're trying to reach. Okay, great. Moving on to the next slide. Great, and then the next one after that. So now we're going to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the options. So this was a really interesting study. Shareablee, I would say, is a social industry. They have ad products and things that you can buy to help enhance in your metrics and really report out on what's working and what's not. But I would say they're a leader in the industry. We're sharing best practices across the board and across a lot of different verticals. So they had a study that came out earlier this fall, where it talked about the consumption for social and the appetite for social. So as you can see here, in 2019, 3 hours and 17 minutes were spent on social. Now it's 6 hours and 59 minutes. And I think we can also say, well, that yes, because of the pandemic, there were different shutdowns across the country. People are working from home, so they may have more time. And that is 100% true. But I actually think it's going to continue to go up or stay the same. I don't think it's going to go back down. I think people are using social a lot more differently. I think people this year alone used social to stay in touch with different protests that were happening across the country. They were keeping up with COVID. They were voting. There's a lot more than just sharing photos and images of your day-to-day life or a vacation. People actively have social as part of their consumption. They follow it for the news. There's a variety of different ways. So I think this is a great statistic to know that people are spending more time on social. There's an appetite for social content. You want to make sure as marketers and advertisers that you're really getting your content in front of this audience because they're there and there's a great space for us to connect with them. And then moving on to the next slide. And I think this actually should get everyone the most excited, is that 57% of people prefer to see relevant ads, right? Ads that are important to them, and that can vary by person. on social more than anywhere else. And I think it's because social has been designed to have an ad that feels, for the most part, not very disruptive. I think we all know back when we would watch TV and you couldn't fast through commercials, it was always so annoying that you had to wait and it felt disruptive. On social, if the content is done right, it feels very native to the platform. And it also is adding value to the person who's seeing it because it's being very targeted. So I think this is also really great that people are okay with seeing ads on social. They'd rather see ads on social. So that's just something to keep in mind. I know from our personal experience at Marriott that in these past few months, we're seeing our social advertising do better than some of our other placements. And I think it's because A, people have more time, and then people are also looking for discovery and inspiration for new products, for new services. They're going to social first. And I also think the platforms have, again, as they're moving towards more of a commerce experience, they're really trying to have people think that it's not just, oh, I want to buy a couch now. It's really trying to create that desire to want or need a service before the consumer actually knows that they do. So I think you should always think of someone's always in the mind of wanting to try something new, want to buy something new, want to try a new product or service. I think social does that really, really well. And especially because I think the platforms are also pushing that type of mentality. So always think about, people are always in the mindset to try something new and to explore and to discover, to better themselves, whether it's through a product, a service, a brand. So I think that's really great for us to keep in mind. And then moving on to the next slide. And then this is probably no surprise, but social media in the United States is increasingly spending more money on social, and they're really focusing on their measurements to make sure that all business objectives are met and that their value is being proven. I can say we are definitely spending a lot of money on social advertising because it's performing and it's doing really well. And so that's just something to consider, that more advertisers are seeing a bigger bang for their buck. They're seeing a better return on social than they are in some other placements. And I think similar reasons that we just discussed, more people are on social, more people are open to trying a new product and service. The ads are very tailored to them and their passions and what they want to experience. So I think social is really a smart place to advertise. Great. And then with everything, and this was taken from Facebook, it's really, you need to think about your advertising goals. There's a lot of different placements, there's a lot of different types of units that you can use, but you really need to think about, what are your business goals? What do you want to achieve from this ad? And I think that's really important to know moving forward. Before you do anything, you need to align with your business goals. Like, what is it that you want to achieve? I would say this also is the same on the organic side as well. Like, what do you want to achieve by these posts? What is the ultimate goal that you want? Because again, if you want to build brand awareness, that might be a very different creative path and different ad units and different placements versus you want to share your new service or your an experience with someone, right? That might be different. So Facebook, when they think about their goals, they think about, are you looking to build brand awareness? Are you looking to promote your app? Do you want to grow sales online? Do you want to retarget existing customers? Do you want to generate leads or increase local sales? So thinking about your goals before you even dive into any sort of advertising is like, what do you want to get out of it? And I think also sometimes some of these things can overlap. So you could try one and then try something else. Definitely continue to test and learn, but making sure you know, what is it that I want to achieve? Because I think that's where you're going to find the biggest success. And then moving on to the next slide. And then this is just kind of how they broke it down. So if you want to bring your business online, and they have a few things underneath, like what you should consider. So who do you want to reach? How are you going to map the customer journey? You want to set your marketing goals. If you want to establish your presence, do you want to stay connected to consumers? Do you want to bring your business online with Instagram? Do you have the right tools for that? I actually have to say, I do feel Facebook and Instagram, and I have some links at the end, do a really great job of providing tools and resources to help you understand what is best based on your goals. They have a lot of webinars, they have a lot of tutorials and best practices and testimonials that I think would really help for those of you that aren't really sure where to dive in. But again, these are just some of the things that they're thinking about and things that when you're putting your goals down, things that you want to walk through. So just as kind of how Facebook is laying it out, but I think it's really smart to think about things in this way. And then moving on, so different types of Facebook ad units. There's a lot, and there's also a lot of different types of placements, which I will talk through as well. But for the ad units, is a single video, a photo, stories, whether that's Facebook stories or Instagram stories, Facebook Messenger, there's a carousel, there's a slideshow, there's collections, there's playables, there's Insta experiences. And then on Instagram, they also have Explore. So there's a lot of different units. I'm going to go through some of the biggest ones and some tips to consider, but by all means, there are ways test and learn to see what works for you. If you have a lot of great video content, you may want to spend more in producing compelling campaigns that include video. If you just want someone to see your message when they're in Messenger writing to their friends, that might be a good opportunity for you. So there's a lot of different units and a lot of different things that you can explore and test and learn to see what works and resonates with your target audience. And I also think that's another thing too, is in addition to your business goals, who do you want to reach? Because I think that's really important to know. Do you want to reach someone who's under 35, that lives in Washington, D.C., that has a household income of $50,000, that likes running and fitness and et cetera, right? Like you can really create a strong profile for your target audience. I think that is where success really lies, is if you can nail down who it is that you want to target and really be specific and create content and ads that really resonate with them. Okay, great. So here are some examples. So we have the ad images and the video images. And then this is just an example from the Super Bowl from 2018. But with ad images, really it's to drive people to websites or apps with very high engaging visuals. So really you want to make sure if you use an image ad that you have a really strong visual that speaks to what it is that you're talking about, whether it's a service, a product, or a brand. Video ads can show off a variety of different features. It can have sound, it can have motion. It can be something super professional, or it could be something a little bit more lifestyle. There's a variety of ways to do the video. When you're thinking again about your target audience, who do you want to reach? What are your business goals? You also want to think, what creative do I have that's going to best tell my story? And then that will help you figure out where you want, which unit you want to use. If you have really strong video, I would definitely recommend video. But if that's not something you really have, or it's not really compelling, you probably wouldn't want to go with a video ad. Okay, moving on. So when to use an image ad. And this is a sample that I liked from Ben & Jerry's because it's simple. Fans agree half bake is ice cream perfection. It has a nice picture of ice cream. I kind of wanted to eat it when I was looking through it for examples. So it served the point, right? And the point was to increase interest in a service, brand, or product, raise awareness, and it delivers a simple message. The message is very clear. Ice cream is good. You should have it. So it's not overly complicated. So I think image ads do a really great job if you have something, a service or an experience that you want to share, and you have a good image to do that. And it's a simple message, right? You don't want to overcomplicate it. I think I wanted to eat ice cream after this. Maybe some of you want to as well, but it served the point, right? And it was very easy to understand, and it wasn't overly complicated. And then moving on to the next one and some best practices. So this I can't stress enough, regardless of where you're advertising, the aspect ratio matters immensely. It's really important that you're looking at the specs for each advertising unit, for each channel, and making your content to that. Otherwise, it looks funny, or you're leaving space that could have been taken up full screen. So really thinking about the ad size, because the aspect ratio size, because it really does matter. You also want to use high resolution imagery. So you don't want to use anything that is cluttered or anything that doesn't really speak to the service that you're offering. You want it to be as clear as possible. And again, focus on your message. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Whatever it is that you want that audience to know about your product or your service, be very focused in that message. And this is a tip that Facebook has told us time and time again in different webinars that I've been on, that if you have something, show it in action. So I'll go back to the Clorox. Show someone wiping with Clorox or using the spray or using the detergent if it was Tide. Show off your service. So for those of you that have something physical, you really want to show people using it or how to use it. Facebook says one of their best creatives this year was actually from Carvana. And I've seen the commercials on social and of course on television, but they said it was very clear. They highlighted how to use the product. It was very easy to follow. It had interesting cuts and it was very engaging. So again, want to make sure that we're really clearly articulating what it is that we want the customer to do and what it is that you're offering. What is it? What is your product? What is your service? What is your brand? We want to avoid too much text on an imagery. I would probably argue don't put text on any image. Just let the image do the talking and the post copy really work for you. But if that's not easily understood, or if that's not what you want to do, just do keep text limited. Because again, when you have text on an image, it tends to feel more like an ad and people are more likely to scroll over it. And then just always a good rule of thumb, preview how it looks before posting. And if you want to make any changes, you obviously can. And then moving on to the next one. And then when to use a video ad. So again, to highlight your service, your product, your brand, if you want to capture attention quickly, people really do like videos. So if you want to grab someone's attention really quickly, I think a video unit is the way to go. And it also, again, delivering a single message that inspires an action. So they want to, if you own a housekeeping company, want to hire your team to come and clean your house or to visit your website or to make a purchase. Again, video units are really great for an inspiring an action. Great. And then best practices, keep videos short. I don't think in the days of TikTok and Instagram stories, shorter seems to be better. So really want to think about making sure you're short and concise and to the point. You want to make the video digital and mobile first. And what I mean by this is, again, it should be vertical or square. Don't use a landscape video because it won't perform well. And making sure that it looks and feels like it was created to be consumed on a mobile device. Less and less people are using social channels on a desktop. There are placements that are just for people that are using desktop, but video really and should be, most people consume it on their mobile phone or in a digital environment. So we're trying to make it as digital friendly as possible. Use square and vertical, which we just talked about, and you want to capture attention quickly. Again, you have a nanosecond to really grab someone, making sure that that message and your service is featured early. We want to grab their attention early so they watch it the whole way through. And then also want to make sure that you can have sound on or sound off with your videos. Again, sound on is a lot more popular these days, but want to make sure that that is an option that someone can understand what's happening without having to listen to it if they choose to have the sound off. Great. And then some other Facebook units, and these units go across Facebook and Instagram, just so you know. We have carousel ads and collection ads. So carousel ads is really great if you want to feature a variety of different things. So you can have video, you can have images, each one can have its own link. So here in the example is of Adidas, each picture would have its own link to go back to where to purchase that shoe or where to purchase that coat. And then with the collections, this is really about shopping a catalog. So if you were Sephora and you had a lot of different products, you can put them all here. And then also it just shows the different ways. So you have the person putting on the lipstick, and it has a variety of different ways to highlight the products. Because I think that's really important. If you are a company that has a lot of products and or a lot of services that you want to offer, and you want to use a variety of content to be able to share that. Great. So when to use a collections unit. So again, all about discovery. People want to discover new things. They want to discover, and again, it's not just commercial beauty and fashion. People use all Facebook and Instagram to discover all sorts of new things. So I think this is really great. A seamless browsing mobile experience. So again, these collection units are designed so you shop in app. So you don't have to go to a website. You can look and shop right on the on your phone, which I think is great. It's keeping everything within the social platform. This is also good to convert demand into sales. So this is something else to consider. And then again, if you have a variety of products or services you want to highlight, this might be a really great way to do that. So you just don't have to focus on one. You can focus on a variety of things. Great.
Or we have another question. What is recommended length for a short video?
That is a great question. That is a really good question. So the rise of TikTok has really kind of thrown the video space a little bit into a tizzy, because they are very short and quick and sometimes very sassy, depending on who you follow. I would say a good rule of thumb is no more than 30 seconds. I think if it's a great, interesting video that speaks to what someone's passionate about or what they want to learn about, I think they'll watch it. But anything more than that, it gets a little tricky. So I would say the best practice is 30 seconds or less, with a few rare exceptions. I would say 15 is probably also solid, because people are used to that. Like Facebook and Instagram have done a really great job of training people that 15 seconds is all you got in Instagram stories, and people love Instagram stories. So I would say 30 seconds or under. Anything, especially too, if it's not the most compelling video in the world, because I think we all have video that we've done and we're like, oh, okay, it will be fine. But if it's a little dry, people probably won't watch it all the way through. So you don't want to spend a lot of time and money making something that's 60 or 90 seconds. And I also think with video, if people don't get what you're selling in 2 seconds, then we want to rework the video creative, right? With the rare exceptions of you're trying to do a mystery, or if it's one of the big, huge brands like Sephora or what have you. But I think for most people, like if they're not fully understanding what it is that you're selling or trying to convey in under 5 seconds, they're not going to get it, and they're not going to probably watch to figure it out.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Great. And yeah, we can go to the next slide. And best practices for collections units. So as of right now, they're available on Facebook and Instagram, but this is only mobile. So some of the things that I am talking about right now, this is where you would use your ads manager, because these are above and beyond what you do with your own page. So these would be more of campaign type style of content and of ad units. So these are probably a little bit more advanced than the ones we talked about at the beginning. And a lot of them are going to be moving to a mobile only. So these units you can only see if you're activating the Facebook or Instagram app. Another one is to include a cover image or video that captures attention. So again, want to capture someone, I say in a second, but whatever that short time is, be like, oh, I was looking for that, or, oh, I didn't know I needed that, or, oh, I've been wanting to figure out this service, and boom, here it is. So really want to make sure that we capture attention quickly. Facebook, for those of you that have been advertising with Facebook for a while, as you know, that they're very interested in dynamically selecting different content for you. So there are certain ad units where you can allow Facebook to select which images and then continue to evolve and optimize as the campaign goes along. There is also options to allow Facebook to decide where your ads should go. So whether that's Facebook newsfeed or Instagram feed or the marketplace or Facebook stories, maybe it's all of them, maybe it's not. And then they auto optimize for where it's performing best. I would say probably within the last 6 months, their dynamic options have come full center and have been more available to everyone versus a select few. And also there are ad products that are only for certain verticals. I know in travel that there are some things that some of the beauty brands are doing that we can't do because it's just not offered to our comp set yet. So just something to think about. Like if you do want to allow Facebook to use its AI to determine where your ad is best placed and which products would resonate with the audience. Another great way to use this is if you have a high variety of products, again, also to show how the product is used in lifestyle imagery. So going back to the Clorox example, showing how you use their bleach, showing someone in action doing something, especially if it's a product like that, people want to see, well, how do you use it? How does it work? Especially in COVID time too, what's safe, what's not. So again, where you can feature the product in lifestyle photography being used, I think that is a huge win. And then add a URL parameter to your ad. So this basically is just a code at the end. So you can figure out where your traffic is coming from, and you just get more metrics and more data to be able to determine, is it successful, is it not, where are people interested in you? And so it just really helps you get more data to make better decisions moving forward. Okay, great. And then when to use a carousel unit. So again, multiple products that you want to feature. You want to encourage engagement. You want to encourage them to swipe for more. It's like a movie trailer. You've given them a taste and I want to see more. I saw the first, 20 seconds of Wonder Woman and I want to see the rest of it. So I'm sitting and waiting for it, right? Here, it's the same thing here, where you want to capture their attention and you want to have them want to continue to swipe to see all of your products. Also, you can highlight features of a single product. So if you have something that you offer, you can then share, okay, I have this product or this service, and these are the features of it, which I think is great. So in the fashion world, if you're selling a shoe or a Nike sneaker, you can talk about what makes that product so great, what makes that sneaker so awesome. And then this is also good if you need to explain a process. If you have something that might be a little bit more complicated that you just can't get away with in an image ad, this might be a good one to use if you have a more complicated scenario that you want to get across, because you have more images and you can really do it in an engaging way. Great.
Laura, we have a question here. It says, how do you create key performance indicators in order to measure success?
I think it depends on what your goal is. So what is your business goal? So using my old world as an example, at the Ritz-Carlton, when we thought about doing paid social, there was a variety of things that we looked at. We wanted to make sure that we had high engagement. So whatever it is that we were putting out there, we wanted people to feel inspired and connected. But we also wanted to drive links to our website, because when you have a Facebook pixel on your website, which I would encourage all of you to do, you're able to see the traffic that comes there. You're able to see, did they make a booking? Did they make a booking in 7 days? Things like that, which I'm sure probably a lot of you have. You can see where they're coming from. Again, you don't know the individual because Facebook doesn't give you that, but it gives you an idea of, okay, I am selling my tax service. And then I was able to see how many people actually went to my site. And then I can see if you have an option to book something or to make an appointment, you're able to see how many people did that. So kind of looking at a lot of different things. A lot of companies look at like conversions. So did this ad convert? Or they look at websites views. Did you drive someone to the website? So there's different creative or different units that are better for one versus the other. And then I would say there's different creative that are better for one versus the other. So I would really think about what it is that you want to achieve and then say, okay, I want to drive more website bookings. Then I would pick verbiage, and then I would pick the units that are best for driving clicks to the website versus something that's maybe more broad and inspirational in that manner. Did that help? I hope so.
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Awesome. And then the next one. Okay, and best practices. Oh, this is so exciting for the Carousel unit. I'm actually really excited about this one. So it has multiple components. So it's not just a video or a photo. It has a lot of different components that can go into it. So you can have text, you can have descriptions, you can have captions, you can have a lot of different things that helps enhance what it is that I'm seeing. So again, if you have something that's maybe a little bit more complicated, these components are able to help tell your story. I also think too, another best practice overall when it comes to Facebook and Instagram, when they're recommending you do something, definitely try it. Because if they're saying use all of these components and try to fill up as much space as you possibly can with your ad and your brand story, definitely do so, because they obviously have tons of data on why that works and what people want to see. So I do like that with the Carousel unit, that there is this feature of more components than maybe some of the other ones. Again, no surprise, cohesive and engaging imagery or video. I know I probably sound like a broken record, but that's just how people want to see and connect. They want to be inspired or engaged or learn something they didn't know or add value in some way. So you just want to make sure as best you can put forth your most engaging content into these units. And again, allowing Facebook to dynamically select which ones are shown. So what you can do is you can upload 15, 20, 100 images, whatever it is. And then Facebook will test out which ones are working best and then continue to optimize that. So you don't have to do that, but that is an option. And then show the best performing images first. So if you know from the organic side that these 3 great images worked best, put those up front. Also, if you're using the dynamic Facebook option, they will automatically put the best performing images up front for you. And then select an appropriate landing page to drive the audience to. So again, with all of with this unit in particular, you can have a lot of different things and a lot of different components. So you don't have to drive everyone back to the same landing page. I actually think it is a huge no-no when brands promote something in one of these units and then I click on it and it doesn't actually go back to the thing that I was inspired by. I think the fashion brands are the worst at this, where you're like, oh, I like this sweater, and you click on it and it takes you to some random page that doesn't have the sweater. So just making sure that whatever it is that you're linking to, the audience can then purchase or learn more or whatever the case may be. And you can have multiple landing pages within the unit. Great. And then the next one. And some final thoughts, as I know I'm running out of time, but some best practices overall, regardless of the channel that you're on. Going back to the question that someone asked earlier, is you definitely want to define your goals. And once you define your goals, determine what your KPIs are. So if it's to drive website views, is it to drive names so people will sign up for your email campaign? Is it bookings? If it's buying a service, if it's making an appointment, if you're a doctor or a lawyer in taxes, whatever the case may be, and then looking at through Instagram and Facebook or whatever channel and determining, okay, I want to drive bookings, I want to drive conversion. What are the best ads and where are the best ad placements to do that? Because it's not the same goal. Every ad unit has a different purpose. Every ad unit has a different way and a different placement. So really want to make sure that you are marrying the two together. And again, test and learn, of course, continue to try, but really want to know what your goals are. Like, what do you want to achieve with this ad? And I know that sounds so basic, but honestly, when you do that, it makes it so much easier. And then when you report out what your success looks like and where you have learnings, again, if in my world, if the main goal is to drive someone to a website, I might change verbiage than if it's just broad inspiration, right? And not that one failed or didn't fail, but they just have very different goals. Mobile first creative, if using video, vertical or square, always. No landscape. Throw landscape out of your mind. No, no, no. Again, identify the right channel to advertise on, as we talked about, and I probably could have gone on for another 3 hours of, there are different placements within Facebook. There are, Pinterest is very different than Twitter. So really think about, where is your audience? What do you want to do? What do you want to grow? What are your goals? And then marry that channel. Continue to test and learn with your creative, using real-time results to modify as needed. Again, Facebook will tell you this. Anyone in the social space will tell you this. Continue to test and learn. Don't be discouraged if one or two things didn't work out. Continue to learn. Also, don't feel the need to update your creative every week and do a new different ad every week. Let it run for 4 or 6 weeks and then determine if you need to switch out the creative. Continue to adapt with the ever-changing social media scape. I mean, social has been changed so much in the past 2 years. The rise of TikTok this year has really kind of thrown things to the wind, if you will. So it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. Consumers, depending on the age, want different types of content and use social very differently. So just trying to be aware as best you can. Always be authentic. Don't ever try to be someone you're not, especially with this audience on social. They know when you're not being authentic. Be true to yourself, not only in your organic strategy, but definitely in your ads as well. And again, if you need any help, Facebook has a lot of great tools that I highly recommend.
We do have another question in regards to running your ad campaign for 4 to 6 weeks. Why do you recommend that time frame?
So I wouldn't, well, there's one or two things. So Facebook, if you're using their dynamic capabilities, they do recommend that you let it run longer than shorter. And what I mean by that is they're collecting data, they're optimizing in real time. So I definitely think you should look at it in 48 hours and say, okay, is this resonating? Is it not? But even though social is so quick and so you want results instantly, when it comes to advertising, you do want to let it play out. Because again, if you have chosen to have Facebook auto optimize this for you, if you've chosen for them to put your ad in every available spot that they have, it's going to take some time to go through and figure out, oh, you know what? This is performing much better in Insta feed, and this one's performing better in the right-hand rail. So I'm going to optimize again for just those placements. So it's always kind of testing and learning. Also, I think too, there's an old saying where you need to tell someone something 100 times before they remember. It's okay if they continue to see your ad. Now, you don't want to spam them and you don't want them to see your ad 10 times in a week. But I think sometimes switching it out every week, I don't think you're allowing the platform to let it play out to the best of its ability.
All right, thank you so much.
Cool, so we can move on to the next one. And some trends to watch. And I think this just goes for the social space in general, but definitely in the advertising as well. Continue to be authentic and listen. I think there was a lot of brands that did a lot of faux pas in 2020 where they were trying to pretend to be something that they weren't. If you're going to, there's one thing to be supportive and listen to your audience and listen to what they want. And but it's certainly another to pretend to be something you're not. So I think we've seen that with some of just with how some brands handled COVID, listening to, the whole political sphere, change, social justice and fighting for social social justice change. I mean, there was a lot of brands that jumped on the bandwagon that never appeared to care before, if I'm honest, and the users called them out. So you really want to be authentic. So if you're going to take a stand on something that could be controversial or it could inspire viral or what have you, make sure that you have other posts to back it up and it didn't look like you're jumping on a bandwagon because it's suddenly become popular to vote, right? Just making sure that you're doing it in an authentic way, that you're, and also listening to people and hearing what they want from you. I do think millennials and other generations want brands to stand for something, but they want them to stand for it sincerely. They just don't want them to jump on the bandwagon and post because everybody else is. They want to see meaningful change, and they're passionate about brands that do that. Social ads that are useful and entertaining will more likely drive purchases. I don't think that's a surprise. Again, we all can't be entertaining and fun, but useful. You've added value to someone's day. That is really important. Or you've added a service, or you've explained something that they didn't know before. Don't forget the baby boomers. I think a lot of people think of social and they think of people that are younger. The baby boomers on Facebook are the highest growing demographic. They are spending more time on Facebook than anything else. And actually that's flowing into Instagram as well, and probably some of the other channels. So if your target audience is someone who is 60 or older, these channels are great, and you need to start targeting them in a smart way, and even including them in some of your advertising, again, where it doesn't look like you're doing it just to serve a purpose, like it actually is going to bring value. So I think it's really important. Don't forget the baby boomers. They spend money too. Have clear objectives that align with business goals. Again, I think everyone will say that year after year after year, but making sure you know where you want to go with your business and what you want to achieve in social, and make sure that they marry. Testimonials and UGC content. So user-generated content has been around for a very long time. It goes up and it goes down. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I think within the pandemic period, people are really relying on influencers and friends and families to provide testimonials on if they should use that maid service, or if they should buy that dress, or if they should travel with Marriott. They're really looking at people they deem, like leaders or people that they listen to. They really want to make sure that rings true. And I think that's important. So I do think testimonials in your ads could actually be quite interesting if you have them, because I think that's going to be even more so moving into 2021. People want to hear from others that they respect and admire, and they want to get their advice. And if so-and-so is doing this, and then it's probably safe or cool for me to do it too. So something to think about. Test, learn. I think I've probably nailed that one a lot. Add UTM parameters to track success. So again, that's that code that you include on your links, so you can see more data on where people are coming from, and if they made a conversion, if that was the goal or not. Again, socially conscious mindset, making sure that whatever it is that you post, that you believe it and you're activating it, not just on a social front, but it's actually being done in your company. I think a lot of people are saying, okay, that's great, you're posting about X, Y, and Z, but none of your processes and none of your leadership is addressing this issue. So again, if you're going to jump into the social issues of today, and I do think brands should take a stand. I think it's really important that you stand for something and you fight for change and what you believe in. However, you need to do it very authentically, and you need to make sure that it's also being in your business and not just for PR. Purpose-driven companies, I think, these are two in the same. Again, people are going to be spending more money with companies that stand for something, that add value, that are, whether it's change or protecting the environment, whatever it is that consumer cares about, they want to make sure that they are spending money with companies that also feel the same. And then social channels are becoming more commerce focused, and we kind of talked about that, kind of starting to look and feel more of Amazon than they were in the past. Great. And then
so we have
one more slide
here in the chat.
Oh, sure.
In directing our nonprofit, we tried to add to our Giving Tuesday campaign by buying more coverage. We've done this for our marketing programs and it worked to expand our audience. However, we were denied. And I wondered if it's because we wanted our donors to go to our website rather than networking altruistically. I wonder if you have any comments on maybe how to change things up for nonprofits.
So that's a really good question. I do think Facebook, especially this year, I think we've all watched the news that there has been issues with Facebook. They've been at Congress talking about a lot of different things. I don't know if it could have been the way that the ad was worded, and that's why it was rejected. I've had ads rejected where I'm like, this is strange. Like, why are you rejecting this? So it could have just been something technical. It could have been the verbiage. It could have been that they didn't think you were clear on what you were asking. It could be in a lot of different things. But if you want to send me the example again, I can ask my Facebook rep what they think. But that just off the top of mind, I think it could be one of those things. But my guess is it maybe wasn't worded in a way that Facebook felt was clear and concise on what it is that you were doing.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to the next slide here for you.
Great. And this is the last slide, but this is, again, just different apps as a reminder for helping content creation, whether it's on the organic or paid side. There's a lot of cool apps that you can use to help enhance your content. Because again, I think we all know post-production, a little bit of editing goes a long way. So these are just ones of my favorites. There's certainly others out there, but as you're thinking about, okay, this is great, and I know I need compelling content, but some of my images feel a little flat, just put a little filter on it and it might enhance it a bit. So these are a variety of apps that are good for beginners and people that are more advanced. And that's it. I hope this was helpful, and I love the questions along the way. So thank you so much. I know we're at time, but of course wanted to see if there were any other questions.
I don't see any at the moment right now. So let me see. We just have a message of thanks to you. So we do thank you again for your time today. We look forward to having you back again in the future. And for our audience, we will post this online, of course, at beconet.com/flourish. There you can also find Laura's previous webinar on social media, so you can catch that if you weren't able to live in the past. And of course, we also have our upcoming events and webinars that you can sign up for also at beconet.com/flourish. Thank you again so much, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.